The year is 1997. The crime rate in America increases 400%. The entire island of Manhattan is made into a maximum security federal prison. The federal police force, like an army, is camped all around. Bridges and waterways are mined. All that remains are the prisoners inside and the worlds they have created. The rules are simple. Once you go in, you don't come out. 1997. No.
On this episode of Two Fat Drunks, we're going to explain why Escape from New York is the greatest independent film ever made.
Without
Coming
question.
up next. Hey everybody, it's Two Fat Drunks again. I'm JDV.
I'm Warpig.
All right, so we're going to talk about Escape from New York. It's just a fantastical.
Yeah,
great
without
movie.
question. Greatest independent film ever made. Made for pocket change.
So you have Donald Pleasance, Kurt Russell in a breakout performance in one of the greatest anti-heroes ever written.
Harry Dean Stanton. Adrian Barbeau. Fucking Isaac Hayes.
Borgnine, Academy Award winner.
Borgnine. Lee Van Cleef. Tom Atkins. Dude, what? Who else is in this movie?
Kurt Russell's wife, Susan Hobley.
Oh, that's
Adrian Barbeau.
At the time,
Isn't it weird? I always
Adrian
wondered about this. Why do movies say special appearance?
a union thing.
It must be because they have like the movie has and a special appearance by Susan Hobley.
That's how I did it in Reanimate because we're modeling it after a TV show, and that's
So?
if you're a special guest actor on a TV show,
There it is.
Yeah.
Featuring.
So I mean, you have this great cast, an amazing far-out script that they somehow pull off on a shoestring budget, and this outlandish plot.
You believe,
You believe
every
it.
word.
You believe it. Yeah.
Every word, dude. Like once they get that established, like okay, that sounds good. Yep.
He sets
New
up
York's
a whole
maximum security
comic
prison.
book universe within a half hour. You're all in. You totally buy
Right.
it.
Yeah, and everything you got you all set up. You met all the characters. You know the plot. You okay, and go. And the movie just takes
What's
off.
crazy is it totally holds up.
Yeah, you can watch it now, even though it's like 1997 was like what 20 years ago.
What's really awesome about it, from my standpoint, is you watch it. You know how much Snake Plissken there is in the first 20 minutes of that movie? Almost none.
Very
maybe
little.
almost.
Until the interview.
Right,
That's
really-
the first time he actually talked to him.
Right.
in the
It's not
interview.
until he gets into the glider that the movie actually shifts over to his perspective.
Right,
And
we're
even
done
then-
explaining.
Right.
And now
but
the
even
movie
then,
starts.
it will leave his perspective for big chunks of time and give you these kind of very objective, almost
Get going, Brian.
like documentary style
Right.
kind of snippets of the disaster that
Because they have
has become
scenes
New
with
York.
Brain. They have scenes at the police control. They have scenes that don't involve Snake Plissken. So that
Right.
it becomes like this really well-rounded story that it's not only that, but it's I hate to say it, but like, it's easy to follow. I mean, it's complex, but it's like okay,
Well,
that seems reasonable.
That is
All
the
right,
thing that
go
I
ahead.
think he created a world.
Yeah,
In,
not
in
easy
what
to
I
do.
think he also does.
logically consistent world, like a world that okay, this
right, a
all
world
makes
that is
sense.
obviously Marvel comic book different than ours, but it's a world. And
But
that, they
still
say that
makes
is the
sense.
hardest thing to do in Hollywood, really, because you're setting up a franchise. You're setting up a super franchise. I mean,
Right,
like
it's
Star
gotta
Trek or
be-
Star Wars is like that.
Boy, that begs the question, right?
That universe should be way bigger than
When
it is.
that
They have
came out,
screwed that
there
franchise.
was not much of an expectation of a sequel because that was not the time, really, when they were doing that as heavily.
It became it was a cult hit. It was never a giant hit.
Yeah,
in
it was a
theater.
cult hit. So
It became a hit on
consequently-
cable.
Right. But if it came out now, I mean, you would kind of automatically assume that it would have not just sequels, but as you say, a whole universe of sequels, like a whole other set of movies. Then you'd have movies of the other characters by themselves in this same universe. I mean, a la kind of a Judge Dredd kind of thing, but actually making a sequel. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and so because of the time it came out, I don't think it occurred to them. And obviously, as you say, it wasn't was commercially successful, but
Well, it's a little
that
bit-
took a while.
It's
for
a
that
little
to
bit
get-
like Blade Runner. Like everyone now, of course, Blade Runner.
Yeah, classic.
Blade Runner was a giant flop. Reno.
top 20 movie
It was a
of all time.
giant
right.
flop.
Just
When it started coming back at the college circuit, where people start,
started watching it and they're like, wow, they're like,
right? Well,
movie's fucking awesome.
yeah, not me.
Wow, why
you
I know?
know.
Why?
I mean, Snake Plissken was like one of the real first hardcore anti.
And
Heroes,
so I
anti-dark,
did want to get to
dark
that. So maybe
anti-heroes.
as great as the plot is and the whole rest of the movie, it is, because I go back and forth trying to write my own stuff. It's like, well, what is more important, character or plot? And Escape from New York proves it's character. Because you could drop that guy into almost any other, like drop him into the Dirty Dozen. But
Yeah,
just,
now you got Snake as one of the Dirty
holy
Dozen.
shit, it's Clint Walker and Snake Plissken.
Clint Walker as Snake Plissken. I don't think
That's a different...
that's a different film for completely.
It's
It's
a
like,
different take on
well,
it.
you just
But-
don't think he's
And
villains.
no, we're saying he's an anti-hero, and what is the scene that proves that? There's a scene early on in that film when he first hits the joint, so to speak, that
When-
establishes him right off the bat as an anti-hero.
when he abandons the chick.
Right.
Yeah.
When he goes down to the
abandons
bottom of
chick.
the stairwell, and there's a girl who is being manhandled and presumably about to get raped, and
He's
he goes,
like, can't do nothing about that.
well,
I'm on the clock.
"My name is Paul, and that's on you all."
Right, I'll see y'all later. But
And-
you guys are busy. I can see
And
that.
over the course of just 1 hour, he goes from that point to the point at the end of the film where he goes
He's gone.
and chucks her the gun. Old Snake Plissken, ever.
No.
Old
Wouldn't
Snake
even
Plissken would have
ask.
shot her to
Right.
slow the guy down. Right. So he's again one of those rare characters like CJ in Dawn of the Dead. That actually, or Jack Sparrow, whatever.
Just has that turnaround where they're like,
Played by an amazingly charismatic actor who's
Right.
just hitting the height
and
of,
then he hit it.
you know,
He hit it.
yeah.
Because he did that and the thing back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah, boom, boom.
Now-
Like,
now
whoa.
remember,
1-2
he
punch
was
for
a
Kurt Russell.
star with Disney.
He was a child star. The
You
only
know-
adult film he really did before that was Used Cars, which
You
was
know how hard
You know,
that is,
he-
though, to
he
make
was
that bridge?
Strongest man in the world for Disney.
He was
and
the
he-
computer that wore tennis shoes.
Oh yeah, he's in a bunch of westerns and stuff as a
I mean, so-
he was like a little Opie
As a little
Cunningham.
kid,
It was
right.
a huge decision for him to take this.
Well, and
dark
Carpenter.
role. I
Well,
mean, it
All
was
right, so
great.
yeah,
Smart
so
move,
we're
too.
forgetting
Right.
to talk about maybe the most important guy in the whole thing, of course, John Carpenter, who wrote this while he was in high school, and then somehow this is what he used the juice that he had in his career to make. Is
Right.
this crazy? How can you ever make a movie as complicated and as insane as having all of New York City as a maximum security prison? How do you pull that off? Well, he could pull it off, and in part because he had the Skotek brothers, he
Right.
had Jim Cameron, he had some of these people like Dean Cundy, his photographer, who were about to explode into
but it only works.
huge parts of the industry. Jim Cameron is just a
only-
dude.
Yeah, he's just another set guy.
Just well, he did the models and he did a matte painting.
But it works because Carpenter fucking loves it. I mean, the point you made was strong because that was after Halloween. He made The Fog after Halloween, but he liked that story, but it just didn't do as well. He needed a hit, dude. And he came back with Escape from New York because The Fog was a failure. I mean, that only found its audience
It did-
much
yeah.
later than fucking.
No, a lot of
Escape
people.
from New
I
York.
mean, me too. I
I'm
love
a
the
huge
Fog.
Fog fan,
But
but
yeah, that's another movie that.
yeah,
that-
not
that-
quite.
yeah.
Yeah,
It came out on cable.
So when he was shooting Escape from New York, that was kind of like
This was
boy,
his
I
career
better,
on the
yeah,
line,
I better
yeah.
dump this all in because.
And
this
it was
has gotta
shot
work.
in St. Louis, which had just had a
Which
huge
looks like that
fire. Yeah, I mean, but it looked really rough.
Yeah, they didn't fix it.
In the middle of a very, very hot summer, and
Yeah.
and you could see. I think Newsweek or some other magazine said you could just feel the heat
Yeah.
of the. I mean, they look desperate because, in part, all of them are suffering.
sweating.
Even in the middle of the night during most of those shoots, they were truly suffering.
Right.
You know, just in terms of those really hot
Just fucking oh my God,
city
I can't
nights,
believe it,
and
right.
and boy, did that come through. And Carpenter's music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's equal to Halloween. I mean, it is one of the great scores of all time.
Could have been filmed in downtown Detroit.
Sure,
Well,
it
no
could.
doubt.
Yeah.
Today. Well, yeah. 2022. No. Sorry.
I remember thinking that John Carpenter was negative about our future. Turns out he was an optimist.
Oh yeah, I long for the organized utopia of Escape from New York.
Yeah, or They Live. All right, fuck it. Come on, aliens.
Right now.
Right? At least there'd be some sense of organization and somebody being in charge.
Yeah, I mean, Lee
Van Cleef, bro.
was working for the government, so how bad can it be?
I mean, I trust Lee Van Cleef. I mean,
There's
even
just
if
so
he's having
many-
you killed, you probably deserved
There's
it.
so many things that you can learn from watching that film. You learn about matte painting, special effects, how to act,
How to move a story along.
how to move a story along, how to not give a shit. Like, no, he tells this crazy far out story paced in a way that they would never let happen now.
Right to your face.
Yeah, I mean,
Believe this. Okay.
and I think it would be a hit now, or it was
Oh, it would
it
be
was
a huge hit
like,
now.
because of the
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Like,
It has a character like Maverick, but yeah, no, it has. It not only has a character, it has character. Like there's so many great characters in the film, and they're all good.
the only other, to me, to kind of wrap up the episode, other movies that you can say are better than Escape from New York would be John Carpenter's own Halloween, because wow, I mean, without Halloween, there's nothing else.
Which was all soundtrack. I mean, they
a big part of it. Yeah.
well because
But
when they
he
test
wrote that
shot
too.
it.
He wrote the music
Yeah,
for that
when he
too.
test shot it for the guy who put the money up, dude, he was
Akkad.
gonna lose his ass. Yeah, Mustafa Akkad.
Mustafa Akkad.
He was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Ooh, let me put a soundtrack to that."
That's right,
Give me a
yeah.
couple days, 6 days.
Yeah, it was like less than 2 weeks. Yeah.
Like, much better. Like, yeah, shit.
And I would argue Blair Witch Project could
Yeah.
well be
Well,
better because
Now,
okay,
Blair Witch Project and
Blair Witch
Escape
Project
from
is
New
one of the
York.
most original
Come on
films
now.
of all time. It's still one of the most scary
Well-
films of all time.
Yeah, but-
and it made the most money versus how much it cost of all time.
okay, here's where
There are a lot of metrics that say yes. Now the rewatchability aspect and
Well, that's
and,
what
Right.
and
told dummies
universe.
that it would happen with real
See,
life.
that's where the fact that he creates a world does matter.
It matters, and as much as I love Escape from New York, I'm gonna hand it to Blair Witch because Blair Witch created a genre.
Right, it really did.
Yeah, I mean, Escape from New York did not create a genre. It's a
Escape from
dystopian
New York is
sci-fi
if
film.
Howard Hawks did a sci-fi
I'll
story.
counter that. I'll counter that because Escape from New York created Snake Plissken, which created Metal Gear. There would be no Metal Gear video game without Snake
Right,
Plissken.
but I'm not
Well, there'd be
arguing
Metal
it's
Gear, it
cultural.
just
Wait,
looked
I'm not
different.
arguing it's cultural
But I
relevance.
agree with
No,
you.
there
I
would be
agree.
no-
You're right.
And that is, there are so many video games that owe their lives to Snake
But what I'm
Plissken.
saying is that Blair Witch created a genre of film
Billions and billions and billions
that
on
generated
video games.
no fucking Blair
On
Witch,
Snake Plissken.
no Paranormal Activity, like no like that entire genre of found footage films. Like there was no found footage films until that movie. I mean that is a genre created in our lifetime.
Well, there's actually technically two. There's one that was on Fox about aliens, and there's the last broadcast. But yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
That
But the
was a
idea of
big hit.
because that's in the tagline of the film. You know, their footage was found a year later. This is what it showed.
I mean,
Because
that's,
if you look, there was
they're
movies
just
Fire
very,
in the
very,
Sky before
very
that,
different movies.
which
They-
had lots of
right.
found footage in that movie.
Where where Escape from New York wins though in its own way is that so much more technically slick. I mean, there's no
million times
differentiation between that movie and honestly just a straight up Hollywood film. You don't think about it being low budget. You really don't. I mean, you just it does so much with so little.
Which
now
is
Blair
this-
Witch they had like what $50 in a website, which is okay, but they're not trying for what Escape from New York brought, and that is real cinematic
No,
value to a
yeah.
science fiction film.
well, Blair
That's
Witch.
tough.
Blair Witch is almost like the French New Wave movement, in kind of
Right.
in a weird
Almost
American.
kind of a guerrilla film.
Yeah, well,
really.
but I mean, something they somehow made art out of 10 cents.
Right.
Which is very hard to do. Carpenter had more, I mean, he had all of these guys who were about to have big, massive careers because of Roger Corman's studio
Right.
and all this kind of thing. But still, Escape from New York, because it creates that universe and that
Yeah,
characters.
and it's right. Well, and
But it is.
Jeremy made
it
the
is
point
a
about
fu-
cultural relevance.
Because
and
Blair Witch Project could still scare a grown man.
Yeah.
That's
It's a freaky film.
It's scary.
It really is freaky. Yeah,
All right,
so.
but so
Hey,
do you think they will, because they're both still alive, right?
no.
Both John Carpenter and
And I hope not. I hope not. I would rather see.
if they're letting Harrison Ford be freaking Indiana
I don't wanna
Jones
hear
and
about
instead
it.
of
I don't
Chris
wanna hear
Pratt,
about
We
it.
had The Thing also.
How is Chris Pratt not Indiana Jones? What the fuck?
We've had multiple successes though.
of what?
Of what?
We've had The Thing with
Would
Kurt
you like to
Russell,
see a
bringing
thing?
the same charisma
To Mac.
of
Mac. Somebody got the
Snake
blood.
Plissken. He's brought the same character and the same type of charisma.
You know what's-
of Snake
that's a
Plissken
funny
to
point.
multiple roles.
That's a funny point.
All the way
Yeah,
to
but the
modern,
sequel
to
was
Soldier,
terrible.
movie Soldier, he brought that same charisma or that
Sure.
same
You know, he
toughness
was-
and character. You'll never bring that same
Right.
Blair Witch or Bear Witch project if you want to go to the semi.
Kind of a hater, to be honest.
I am a hater because it's not
Boy,
ever going to be an
he's
escape.
really, really tough on Blair Witch.
Well,
I'm a
no,
little taken
because
aback, to be
because
honest.
you brought it to Escape from New York.
And I am fucking. And now you must die. Oh God!
No, Jeremy, no.
No, you made an interesting point because with Kurt Russell, I mean, he admits that in that movie, he's literally just doing an impression of Clint Eastwood. Like that's all he's doing. Like, he talks like this, right? Just like Eastwood.
Take me to the Duke.
I want to be the Duke.
Clint Eastwood's
Right?
like 95 years old and he still is a little smack.
Whereas
mean,
Big
he's
Trouble in Big Trouble in Little China,
Little China.
he's doing John Wayne,
And he's still badass.
and he's still badass. Yeah. So
Every-
all right.
I mean,
Yeah, but I had to address that. But all right, so.
All right, so hey, I don't even know if we could really touch on. I don't know. Do you think young kids today, like say a 16-year-old growing up boy, do you think he would?
A boy, yeah, for sure. Just because it would
Pliskin's
be
so awesome,
Pliskin, right? Because
Who doesn't like Chinese stars and Mac 10s?
I think he would get sucked into the idea, like, oh wow, this is pretty sweet. Wow, okay. I mean, look at the shit they buy now. It's like, oh, this story seems totally believable.
Full
Matter of fact, I'm
auto
pretty sure it's
silence
happened
Mac
today.
10 is just a.
Yeah.
Come on. The Chinese stars, ridiculous. Doesn't matter.
Right. The very idea. Like,
Oh, Chinese star in my head. And I'm dead.
ow, what?
Right.
What?
That guy was so stupid he probably wouldn't even know. Like, ouch.
You're like, it must have killed me.
All right, so if you like these kind of deep dives into nerdism, give us
Show up.
Thumbs
Hang
up.
out. Tell us
Thumbs
what you
up.
think.
send us bags of cash.
That would be great.
Whatever. Like, subscribe, share, love each other. Until next time.
All my brain cells are still there. I remember stupid shit like that.
Hail to the victors valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, hail to Michigan, the leaders and the best. Hail to the conquering heroes, hail to the stomping champions, hail to Michigan, the leaders and the best.
Never attended one day.
What?
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.